I find this drama really intriguing. If you could call anyone from your past, who would you call? Or better yet, what would you do if someone from the future called you? Beware of spoilers. The series begins by introducing us to Ansen-sen, Xiuxian, and Chisu. From the very start, you can tell that the three of them share a strong friendship, full of jokes and friendly teasing among themselves. While they're playing and running around, Ansen-sen loses his metal ID tag. Next, the trio heads to a sacred tree near the school, where each of them proceeds to make their most heartfelt wishes. At that moment, Xiuxian notices that Jianling, a new student at the school, is also there. Just then, the boy quietly approaches and returns Ansen-sen's metal tag without even looking at Xiuxian. 12 years after this event, we see Jianling, desperate, trying to find money, surrounded by piles of papers and books he has written but failed to get published. While searching for some cash, he finds an old phone in his drawer. At that moment, some loan sharks show up to collect from him, and this time they do it violently, indicating that Jianling has overdue debts. While the loan shark is harassing him, the boy does something on the found phone and the call connects directly to Ansen-sen's cell phone, 12 years in the past. What would you do if someone you barely remember called you from the future? Would you hang up or listen to what they have to say? Our protagonist answers the call while she's with her friends, assuming it's a wrong number. Despite this, she finds the situation very strange. Curiously, this situation helps him get rid of the loan shark, but his surprise at having spoken with Ansen-sen leads him to search through his belongings for a photo of her. The next day, Ansen-sen goes to school and notices that the boy who returned her badge the day before is in her class. Things get more complicated for the young woman when he introduces himself as Jianling. She doesn't understand what's going on. But when her phone rings in front of the whole class and she sees on the screen that it's a call, also from Jianling, she quickly looks at him, only to realize that the boy seems completely unaware of the situation. Later that same day, Ansen-sen quietly approaches Jianling while calling his cell phone, just to check if he was the one who called during class and got her in trouble. And as soon as she confirms it, the young woman confronts him for messing with her, but he doesn't pay much attention to her, at least not until the thunder starts. Ansen-sen receives a call and her face freezes in disbelief when she realizes it's Jianling who's calling. However, he's standing right next to her, not even touching his phone. Frightened, she tells the boy that his voice is coming from the phone, but when Jianling answers the call and speaks, a beeping sound rings in her ear. And the same thing happens to the Jianling from the future, since they can't cross paths. That night, Ansen-sen answers Jianling's call again, and he finally explains to her that he's in the year 2024, while she's in 2012. And to prove he's serious, he mentions several events that happened that year and, to conclude, warns her that there will be an incident at school. To Ansen-sen's surprise, the incident happens soon after when a boy at school rebels against the cafeteria cook, complaining that the food is terrible and that everyone should have the right to choose where to eat. After this, all the students join the boy, sparking a small battle in the cafeteria. In her next conversation with Jianling, Ansen-sen tells him that what he predicted has come true. And taking advantage of the situation, he asks for help, revealing that someone scammed him and that he has a large debt to pay. He asks her to convince his high school self to buy a lottery ticket, and even gives her the supposed winning number. Jianling isn't looking for hope, she's looking for statistics, as if life could be fixed with 6 well-chosen numbers. Meanwhile, Ansen-sen asks her what his future self is like, if he is happy or successful. He promises her that he will find out. Finally, Jianling gives her some advice so she can get closer to his past self, who is distant and enigmatic. So the young woman begins her mission, but despite all her efforts, something always goes wrong. On her last attempt, the girl gets some books and gives them to Jianling, since apparently they are his favorites. That's how she manages to get close to him, but he insists on buying the books from her and only accepts her friendship on that condition. Shortly after, they share some noodles, and at that moment, Ansen-sen reveals the truth to his companion, telling him that the call he received the day before was from his future self. He also insists that he should buy a lottery ticket. After this, they both go and buy the lottery tickets, since Ansen-sen is fully confident that they will be the winners. That night, Xiuxian confronts our protagonist and reminds her that she saw Jianling first and that she likes him, demanding that she stay away from him. The next morning, Xiuxian tries to get close to Jianling, but he doesn't even pay attention to her. As soon as she walks away, the young woman discovers a page written by him about Ansen-sen, which only increases Xiuxian's jealousy. As a result, she confronts Ansen-sen for being so close to Jianling and tells her that if they are truly friends, she should get the boy to have dinner with them. Pressed by her friend, Ansen-sen begs Jianling to join her friends for dinner, which she manages to do after several attempts. However, things don't go as Chuzian wishes, because Jianling shows no interest in her and even decides to switch tables to be alone. After that, Chuzian looks at An Sen Sen with hatred. A few nights later, the lottery ticket doesn't win, and An Sen Sen contacts Jianling to tell him, but he replies that it doesn't matter anymore. He also tells her that he's on the rooftop of his building and that no one can help him in his situation, that no one can save her and no one can save him. Wow, so much despair. Jianling also tells her that she has no future because she'll be dead before the university entrance exam. Obviously, this leaves An Sen Sen stunned and she confronts him for saying that. But before anything else can happen, the call is cut off and we see Jianling fall to the ground. Meanwhile, our protagonist tries to process all this information and returns to her mother's house devastated, asking her to make her favorite dish. There's a stark contrast here. When the world falls apart, refuge isn't a miracle or a call from the future. It's a warm childhood meal as a last resort. But after that, the university entrance exams begin and everyone realizes that An Sen Sen is not herself. However, the next day everything gets better when Jianling shows up at school, which means he will be fine in the future. Later on, they talk about the last phone call and she tells him that he will become a successful writer in a few years, but that his life will be in danger. In the future, we see Jianling waking up next to his lender, who managed to save him the night before. In addition, he gives him a motorcycle so he can make deliveries, work for him, and eventually pay off his debt, offering him a way to make a living. Unexpected, but how nice. Shortly after, our protagonist receives a call from Xiangling from the future, who assures her that he is still alive and that he hasn't lied to her about anything. He also mentions that he heard she died and that he hasn't been able to find out anything more than the fact that she passed away at school. He promises her that he will find out the reason for her death so he can prevent it, or at least try to. The next day, Xiangling from the future meets with Chizuo and asks him about Chen Qian. The young man tells him where he might be able to find her. However, that place is a bar, and the young woman is completely unrecognizable, lost in a world of vice. Moreover, she claims not to remember An Sen Sen. When he returns to Chizuo, Chizuo suggests that his best option is to talk to the class monitor from the year they graduated. Then the boy remembers a moment in his past when he got into trouble and the monitor, Gu Ming, was the one who helped him. For her part, An Sen Sen is afraid of what might end her life and asks Xiangling to teach her some self-defense moves, so they end up together in the school gym training so she can defend herself. The next day, An Sen Sen and Qian Qian meet to have an honest conversation. At that moment, Qian Qian yells at our protagonist that she should stop pretending to be her friend since she made it clear from the beginning that she likes Xiangling and that she should stay away from him. Although the young woman tries to explain that there is a very logical reason for being close, Qian Qian insists that she is just a manipulator. And honestly, if she told her about the calls from the boy from the future, I wouldn't believe her either. Hurt, our protagonist replies that she never thought she would believe that, since they're friends. She tells Qian Qian that she's selfish because she doesn't know anything about what's going on. And offended, Qian Qian walks away, but not before declaring that their friendship is over. As for classes, things get complicated for An Sen Sen when she realizes that someone signed her up for the sports recruitment for a scholarship, even though she doesn't even exercise. With Xiangling's help, she starts training for the race, but her physical condition is terrible, and her only motivation to finish the training is the promise of a good meal at the end. An Sen Sen wasn't running for sports glory or for the scholarship. She was running because Xiangling promised her fried chicken at the end. And let's be honest, most teenagers would run faster if food was waiting for them, not a medal. Later on, An Sen Sen continues with the training, but it's just too much for her. So she calls her father, who signed her up, and tells him she can't finish among the top runners. But her father assures her that she just needs to cross the finish line and he'll take care of everything. Meanwhile, we see that our protagonist's father is with Zhejian, Zhezhou's sister. In the future, Xiangling decides to visit An Sen Sen's mother, but finds no one there except Gu Ming, who is accompanying her. He realizes that the boy regularly visits the lady, so when they leave the house, they have a conversation where both comment on how strange it is that he's there. Xiangling takes the opportunity to ask about An Sen Sen, but the monitor only tells her that maybe she was under too much pressure, as if that were an excuse for her death. Finally, the day of the sports test arrives, and An Sen Sen realizes she has lost her admission slip, so Xiangling goes with her to look for it. At the same time, Zhejian offers to go look for them so they can make it to the bus on time. However, instead of helping them, she locks the place where they are, preventing them from getting there on time. When they finally manage to get out, it's already too late and they have no choice but to leave on a motorcycle lent to them by one of the street vendors. On the way, the police stop them and they are the ones who finally take them to the test site, so they arrive just in time to participate. Then, Zhezhou gives An Sen Sen a new pair of running shoes. Unfortunately, during the race, something happens with his shoes and he twists his ankle. At that moment, Xiangling quickly pulls her off the track to prevent a more serious accident, and once they're in the infirmary, we find out that the shoelaces had been cut, which leads An Zhen's mother to blame her father, since he was the one responsible for buying the new sneakers. The next day, An Zhen is at home when her father arrives with a gift to apologize for what happened. At that moment, the young woman notices there's another gift, a butterfly-shaped necklace, which he says is for her mother. Her father confirms it and puts it on her. He says it's for his wife, but we all know that butterfly was flying straight into the wrong garden. That night, the woman returns the necklace to her husband, assuring him that she knows it wasn't meant for her. A couple of days later, An Zhen arrives at school with her father. At the same time, Zezhuo arrives with his sister. And at that moment, the girl gets out of the car and notices the necklace she saw that day, the same one that was supposedly for her mother. After school, our protagonist goes to her mother's house and asks about her father. The woman just tells her he'll be home soon. However, our protagonist becomes suspicious and goes up to her parents' room, only to discover that in the closet, there are only her mother's clothes, not a single item belonging to her father. Not satisfied with all this, her doubts grow the next morning because her father was supposed to have slept at home. But while having breakfast, she notices that his shoes are wet, even though it's raining outside. When she gets to school, the young woman calls Xianling from the future, who tells her that she saw Zhuo pick up a child from kindergarten and that the child called him uncle. This further fuels An Zhen's suspicions, who concludes that her father married her best friend's sister and that they now have a child. She finally confirms it that night when she sees her father and his lover together as a happy couple in the same restaurant where they used to go as a family and where they shared so many laughs and memories. This completely breaks An Zhen's heart, as she now knows that her family is destroyed. The next day, An Zhen confronts Zhuo, demanding that he ask Yan to stay away from her family. This surprises Zhuo, as he had no idea about his sister's relationship with his best friend's father. What do you think hurts more? The betrayal itself, or discovering that everyone around you pretends not to see it? After being accused at school of stealing money, An Zhen has a conversation with her parents, who ask her to take responsibility. However, she insists that she is being falsely accused, but her parents do not believe her. She then goes up to her room and calls Xianling from the future to ask if she remembers anything about the theft. But her memory doesn't have any clear facts about this event. It's becoming clear to me what kind of pressure the protagonist was under. The truth is, it's not easy for her at all. At that moment, An Zhen suggests that it might have been Yan who wanted to harm her, to which Xianling simply replies that she'll find out. Meanwhile, present-day Xianling conducts her own investigation with Guming, since they suspect that Yan, who seems to have reasons to harm her former best friend, is behind it. That night, Xianling goes to eat noodles and the vendor returns one of the missing bills to her. She quickly becomes alert, concluding that the person who stole the money went to shop at that place. Meanwhile, future Xianling meets with Zhuo to ask him about the money theft in high school, but the boy refuses to help her. In fact, he starts avoiding her at all costs, as if trying to escape her persistent questions. In the present, Xianling and Guming come up with a plan. They display the money right in front of the school so that whoever stole it will realize that a bill has been found. According to Guming, the culprit will know they're onto him and will start making mistakes. That same night, the social pressure on An Zhen becomes too much for her, as when she arrives at her room, her friends lock their drawers with keys, as if they were afraid she might steal from them too, while the rest of the girls in the dorms watch her from the hallway. Because of this, the next day, our protagonist decides to end her life. Standing on the school rooftop, she's about to jump when everyone gathers below her and behind, including Zhuo, Tian, and Xianling. Just as she's about to jump, Guming appears with the missing money and Xianling runs toward her, saving her before she can do something drastic. Several days later, Guming visits An Zhen along with the class teacher to deliver letters from her classmates containing positive messages, since our protagonist has refused to return to class. When An Zhen decides to come back, all her classmates welcome her with applause, making her feel loved again. That afternoon, Xianling invites a girl on a date where she gives her an envelope filled with many coins. And after that, they go to an arcade, which excites our protagonist. Again and again, the girl tries to win a stuffed animal but ends up losing all the coins. Next, she insists that Xianling take part in a noodle eating contest, which the young man ends up winning. Finally, An Zhen ends up singing at the fair, while her companion watches her with admiration. Afterwards, they go to Xianling's house, where the girl admires all the manuscripts and books he owns, showing her determination to become a great writer. As for the future Xianling, he continues searching for answers and decides to visit the teacher from the 2012 class, who is now the principal. After introducing himself and reminding her who he is, he asks her about An Zhen. She remembers her perfectly and tells him that her story can't be explained in just a few words. She asks him to write down his number, assuring him that she will get in touch with him. After that, Xianling leaves the office. In the present, Qi Tian is in a store when a couple of stalkers tried to mess with her after failing to get money from her. At that moment, An Sen Sen and Xianling intervene, with the latter fighting the stalkers while An Sen Sen hugs Qi Tian. After the confrontation, the men are arrested by the police. That night in the dorm room, the girls finally talk through tears. Qi Tian thanks our protagonist for helping her, while An Sen Sen reminds her that she will always be there to support her despite any fights they might have. After this, Qi Tian confesses that she never really liked Xianling. She was just very afraid of losing her if she fell in love with the boy. The love here wasn't for the boy, but for the friendship, and the irony is that, in trying to hold on to her, Qi Tian was the one who pushed her further away. After this heartfelt conversation, they both apologize and realize how much they missed each other. In the future, Xianling meets with the principal again, who gives her some small notebooks. Shortly after, she realizes that these are pages An Sen Sen wrote for Qi Shuo and for Chu Chan. Then Xianling takes it upon herself to bring Chu Chan and Qi Shuo together at the wishing tree, where each of them writes a card with their feelings and memories of An Sen Sen and then hangs them on the tree. In the present, Chu Chan invites An Sen Sen to meet her and Qi Shuo at the wishing tree as well, for the boy's birthday. There, An Sen Sen gives his friend a gift as a truce, and finally, honesty blossoms between them. At that moment, Qi Shuo apologizes for the argument they had about his sister. Likewise, our protagonist tells him that adult problems should stay between adults, making peace with their friendship. And the next day, Xianling shows An Sen Sen her finished novel, and she comes up with the idea to publish it online so that readers can decide whether it's good or bad. On the other hand, when the future Xianling wakes up, she finds herself in a completely different apartment from the one she used to live in. It's still small, but it's clean, tidy, and looks nice. Completely confused, he stands up to check where he is, but everything feels strange. He quickly calls his lender to apologize for having fallen asleep, but the man asks who he is and tells him he's calling a financial company. Xianling hangs up the call and sees a book that he supposedly wrote himself. He walks around the room and although he recognizes everything in it, it doesn't feel like his. How strange it is to wake up in a life you've always dreamed of, but that doesn't feel like yours. Success without memory is like a tidy house where you don't recognize the photos on the wall. So we understand that An Sen Sen's decision to publish online paid off in the future. In the present, An Sen Sen has an honest conversation with his father and finally lets go of the fact that they are no longer happy as a family. Then the young woman tells him that she always wanted them to be happy together, but now she understands more about her life and prefers that her parents find their own individual happiness. How mature! After this, her father meets with Shi Yan, who tells him she has a job offer elsewhere, but the man warns her not to leave the city because her family is there. After that, the relationship ends. Meanwhile, Xianling and An Sen Sen discover that Qi Shuo agreed to test some headphones from an underground company whose purpose is to help students cheat on university exams. After Xianling insists, Qi Shuo confesses that he was paid for it and that the goal of those people is to expand to other schools that year. So Xianling sets out to investigate. At the same time, future Xianling calls Gu Ming to ask him about what happened on the day of An Sen Sen's death, to which the class monitor tells her that if she wants to know, she should go to the rooftop of the revival building. As expected, Xianling goes to the agreed place that night where she meets Gu Ming. Gu Ming is about to tell her that after his mother fell ill, he found himself needing to get a large sum of money. When he found out that there were people who wanted to buy the exam answers, he offered to sell them, since he knew everything necessary. For that, he asked for 1 million yuan, which would help with his mother's expenses. However, the afternoon he was testing the signal generator that reached all the schools right on that same rooftop, Xianling and An Sen Sen arrived to catch him. The girl offered to help him, saying she could get money from her father, but Gu Ming was too desperate for that. Then a tense scene began, with Gu Ming holding the device at the edge of the rooftop, while An Sen Sen insisted that he put it down on the floor. The girl reminded him that he was committing a crime, and when Gu Ming refused to stop his plan, she ran toward him, preventing him from moving closer to the edge of the rooftop. In doing so, she prevented his fall but sacrificed her own life. Xianling arrived a few seconds too late to save her. In the present, An Sen Sen wakes up to find her parents happy and together again, as if they had never separated. The scene of the happy family confuses her, but she still eats with them, enjoying the atmosphere she has always wished for her family. Well, that's just how it is. Then, when she arrives at school, everything becomes even more confusing and strange, because there are only a few students in the classroom. so few that not even Xiangling is there. Quickly, Anson Sen asks Chu-chan about the boy, but her best friend tells her that they've never studied with anyone named Xiangling. Okay, something is definitely going on. Also, Gu Ming is the flirt of the class, while Qishuo is the studious and intellectual one. He even reads books during class, which is really unusual. In the next scene, it's 2024 and Anson Sen has been in a car accident, so she's taken to the hospital. Meanwhile, Xiangling has a meeting with her editor, who tells her that the ending of her autobiographical book, where the protagonist dies, is too dark for her audience. The editor wants hope, but Xiangling only knows tragic endings. And when it comes to art, you either do what sells or what makes your heart bleed. For her part, Xiangling insists that everyone will die and that it's a reality, but the editor still doesn't accept the ending. Then the boy goes to visit our protagonist in the hospital, where the nurse is none other than the school principal. This lets us know that many parts of the story being told are nothing more than Xiangling's creativity. There, the nurse tells him that she may never wake up from the coma, so the young man suggests writing a better ending for her. With this, we confirm that it is Xiangling's imagination that has caused all the previous events. When Xiangling rewrites the ending of her book, Anson Sen finally wakes up and meets the nurse, who tells him that he had a car accident and was in a coma for 3 months, describing his recovery as a miracle. Next, we see our protagonist presenting her own book to the same editor as Xiangling, but it is immediately rejected. The man tells her that she is too naive if she thinks that book will work. After leaving the meeting, she crosses the street without looking, which causes the accident. And once again, when she leaves the hospital, our protagonist is walking down the street when she notices a man on the other side holding a white dove and the same pink book that she gave to that boy from high school so many years ago. As soon as their eyes meet, they recognize each other. Anson Sen cries while Xiangling smiles at him because not only did she manage to survive, but they have even found each other so many years later. Definitely, time is not always an enemy nor a savior. It is only a mirror that shows us what we are capable of doing in the present and how each decision changes our story. We can't change every tragedy or force our luck with a lottery ticket, but we can decide how strongly we face life, or even how much time we spend watching another video. So click on one of these to discover a new story.